up. They tell us, no, you see, an Arab Spring is not possible here. Those are lion-hearted Arabs who can, deal with Hosni Mubarak and all others. Yes, lion-hearted Arabs face lion-hearted despots. If Ugandans are chicken-hearted, then Museveni is also a chicken heart. He is a product of our community, of our society. He has the same skin like us. So we should drop the fear. We should drop the self-interest, because that is the biggest problem we have. That many people, because they can afford a car, because they can afford a good school for their kids, because they can afford private health care, they think what is affecting society doesn't affect them. But when it blows, it will blow up for everybody. So it is our duty to make sure that we lead the charge and ask others to support us. We should not expect another round of Tanzanians or this time Kenyans to come and lead the charge as we walk behind them. Yeah, it's our job. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sam. Stella Nyanzi, would you like to come in, please?
Right. So just thanks to Merge, Sam, and Juliana for creating this space. I like the East Africanness coming together. And Dr. Miguna Miguna, it's an honor. I love you and your work. And I love that you're rendering your voice for the cause of Uganda. Because I think for me, in terms of the power of symbols, it matters many times whose voice is amplifying on one's behalf. So to have strong voices with track records is as important as it is to have maybe not so strong voices, but voices that can reach far and bring in many people under that same voice. It's important when you stand with us and you don't stand with those who oppress us. So thank you very much, Dr. Miguna Miguna. I want to associate myself with almost everybody who came to the space. And I was going to respond initially to what Dr. Miguna Miguna had said, but I think let me deal with Angry Citizen, and in the same spirit with Sam Mugumya, to say that actually Angry Citizen, as an angry Ugandan living in exile today, as an angry Ugandan who was a refugee twice in Kenya, in Nairobi, I am angry that we must rely on the support, the necessary support of our neighbors outside Uganda to work with us in this moment, work with us a little longer. I am angry that it seems to our neighbors that we're not working as hard as we should. We're not fighting as much as we should. We're not shouting as loud as we should. We are not as visible on the streets as much as we should be. And our context is a little different. You talked about the Gen Z protests and how there were very few numbers. The Dr. Chiza protests yesterday, last week, comrades have been protesting on the streets. And as soon as they are on those streets, the police descends on them, upon them. They're taken to police station, they're charged immediately, and they're in cells. And the last, one of the comrades, MP Suna, who spoke a few minutes ago, was arrested, was it last week, Suna? On the same day that Comrade Ingrid, Comrade Doreen Nyanjura, and women were protesting against the continued militarization of Chiza Besigye's detention. So Ugandans are working, but we work against a military despot in his last few years. And we need the support of others who may have a bit more space. You still have a bit more space in Kenya, in Tanzania, in diaspora, whatever diasporas we're living in, to do a bit more on our behalf as we strengthen ourselves, because we're strengthening ourselves. There's going to be no liberation for Uganda without Ugandans in Uganda participating to liberate ourselves. We know that. But please bear with us and just help us amplify. Help us. We still need your solidarity a little longer. And the point about colonial boundaries is important, because these are colonial creations. Our countries we inherited from the Brits or the Germans or the Belgians. Otherwise, we were one huge East African community. People in Busia share ancestors, and on and on and on. We are the same people. Many of us. So that the point about blaming Kenya, I want to say that we must not always listen to the narrative of our enemies. Our enemies want to show us that Nairobi is unsafe. Our enemies want to show us that they have populated what used to be and what must be our safe havens. I said I ran with my parents to Nairobi when my father was fleeing from dictator Idi Amin. I ran again in the 2020s with my children to Nairobi, and Nairobi has been a safe haven for many of us. The idea that our oppressors, whatever country, Uganda, Sudan, South Sudan, Somali, Ethiopia, Eritrea, Tanzania, even that those of us who seek refuge in Nairobi, or even those of us who visit, are being taken away, must not color Kenya as a dangerous place for all of us. We must resist that narrative because Kenya has been home to so many of us. I have comrades who, having witnessed the abduction of Kizza Besigye and Haji Obed Lutale, fled. They were Ugandans living in exile in Kenya. Some were expatriates, some were students, some were asylum seekers, but they fled from Kenya, they fled from Nairobi and went further afield to get some bit of safety. And I think for me, part of my anger as a Ugandan, as an East African, is to say, this used to be our safe space. Marge is a Kenyan. I know I can go to her house and eat and be hidden in her house. They're Kenyan comrades who've been our family, who've been our brothers, who've hidden us, who've sheltered us, who've taken us in. Kenya should be that safe haven for all of us East Africans. And so in terms of resistance, well, it is indeed Uganda's battle. It's also the battle of every person in the region: Congo, DRC, South Sudan, Eritrea, Somaliland, Somalia, Rwanda, Burundi, Tanzania, even South Africa, to realize that Kenya is our safe space we must protect. If the Kenyans think that what's happening in Uganda is just about Ugandans, free yourselves, it's actually coming to your door, because Ruto and Museveni and Muhoozi are in the same bed. If you don't see that, you will see it. It's coming your way, because your country, your city, Nairobi, was a safe space for me and my children, but also for me and my parents when I was a child. We have that history, and that history of safety must not be taken away from us by dictators. So my comrades in Kenya, I'm appealing to you, as you're fighting with Uganda, fighting for Uganda, you're fighting for Kenya too, because Kenya is for all of us who need safe, quick exit. Safe, quick exit. The East African community for me makes meaning when home is so dangerous, when I can't stay at home. I just need to get onto an Akamba bus and cross. I just need to get onto a border, cross. I have my East African ID, right? So the fight is not just a Ugandan fight. It's an African fight, but it's really a fight for those East African countries around Kenya that are troubled, and the trouble is coming. It is coming. We just have a longer history in Uganda. The point about those colonial borders, we have to think and rethink when we say this is Kenyan, this is Ugandan. We're actually African people who were separated by colonizers who support the despots in our countries. I wanted to talk a little bit about the Muhoozi question, but maybe before that, I raised my hand in response to Marge commenting on the little poster I shared that was created, I think, by NUP, which is the leading opposition political party. And it has a list of named political prisoners. At the bottom of that list, I mean, Marge, thank you for telling people to share it. At the bottom of that list is 3 small words and many others. And many others. Who is not on that list? Dr. Kizza Besigye, who is my leader, said to us, call for me, but don't call only for me. Call out for every other political prisoner. And I want to say that the named people are people who are known by the persons who made that poster. That poster is an important symbol of the coming together of older opposition political party members and younger opposition political party members. There are very many political prisoners of conscience who are unknown because they're non-partisan. They don't have political parties, but they were picked up. We know about our Muslim comrades, Muslim Ugandans, Muslim citizens who've been picked for years endlessly, and they've been taken into military tribunal, the one that's now deceased, and they're rotting. Many of them are in ungazetted detention facilities. Every Ugandan knows about the basements that CMI hires or rents out, and our comrades have been there for years, some for up to 10 years. There are also safe houses. We've heard about islands. We also know about comrades whose names we knew, who've never been seen anywhere else. They're not in prisons. They're not in safe houses. They're not in any of the places we can imagine that a person that's been denied liberty is. Some of them we hear have been eaten by crocodiles. Some of them are lying in mass graves. We know about the mass graves in Kasese. We know about the mass graves in Tesoland. I've forgotten the name of the area. But they're mass graves, and why this is important is because of the sort of military dictatorship we are living under in Uganda. I don't think that in East Africa there's another militant brute in power. A person who has militarized the entirety of politics, of economics, of justice. A regime, a junta that is militarized, and they practice martial law and martial economics and martial loving. That is why nepotism. So the third point, which is the point I wanted to talk about in response to Dr. Miguna Miguna's point around Muhoozi, is it Muhoozi actually running the country? Has Museveni and Janet and Salim Saleh is a general who is a brother to dictator Yoweri Museveni. Is it Muhoozi now who has actually received the baton and is running our country? And I want to remind us again that the narrative of our enemy should not become our narrative. They must not put words into our mouths. Uganda is a republic. We are not a monarchy. We don't have a king who then appoints his son, Prince Muhoozi, and sits him on the throne of Uganda. We are a republic. We fought for our independence. We must protect our independence, even against military, nepotistic monarchism, which is what we have in our country today. The militarization of everything. The roadworks are made by military. COVID food relief was distributed by military. Hospitals are renovated by military. Civilians are tried in military tribunals. Everything in Uganda is being militarized. In order to search a political party premises, they send the military. To arrest civilians, they send the military. Like the militarization of how Uganda is run. The streets are full of military wearing warfare camouflage. They're carrying weapons on the streets every day. And I think for me that the question about nepotism and the handover of power through nepotism from one military brute to another military brute, from an elderly military brute to a much younger, unwashed, unrefined, and skilled, like totally foolish military brute, is what we are facing. The idea that the political opposition has been fragmented, is being paralyzed, is being threatened through fear, so that the handover of nepotistic power through military means from Museveni to Muhoozi is what we're witnessing. And I think for me that the tweets that Muhoozi sends, I blocked Muhoozi before he could block me, and I really celebrate I blocked him. His tweets are symbolic messages, his messaging. Behold, I am here. I've arrived on the Twitter spaces. I've arrived on the internet. I will arrive away from virtual space into your realities. And I think we must realize that our combat a non-violent combat is against that militarization of our country. And so as I learned, because we were told to be brief, I think for me that therefore, if Mohozi and his tweets are a symbol whose reality we are seeing as they break into the offices of NUP, that was this week. They took away Chairman Nyanzi this week. They took away 2 women, and 2 men on the electoral commission, of electoral management commission of NUP. They took them away. They grabbed them coming from a barrier and they took them away. And the women have narrated their abduction. And the interrogation is about, why are you in an opposition party? Why do you love Bobby Wine? What are you planning for the next by-election and the next election? And then they were released just like that, no charges, that all of that is statelessness, lawlessness, total abuse of any sort of system. And I think for me that if Muhoozi is a symbol of what's coming or what we are headed for, we therefore need symbols. And for me, yes, there are thousands, maybe tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of disappeared Ugandans. But we need our own symbols. And for me, the Freakies of Besigye rallying call, Dr. Besigye is in the evening of his years. He's going. Uganda is going nowhere. We are still here. We still have children. We still have a future. Uganda has a future. And it belongs to all of us. It cannot be taken away from us by those military brutes. So in terms of organizing, I think, again, I'll land with angry citizens call. Ugandans, Kenyans are standing in solidarity with us. Kenyans are amplifying our issue, which is their issue too. But yeast works with dough. Like, you can't amplify nothing. We have to do our own work, Ugandan comrades. We have to do our own work because the tyranny we are fighting is militant and it's at home. It is at home. The work has to be done at home. The work must be done at home. The people at home, when the enemy strikes, he strikes at you first. The rest of us outside Uganda can only amplify the actions at home. I don't know if we'll have another Tanzania revolution coming to liberate Uganda. Perhaps we shall. Perhaps we shall. I never lose hope. But the work must start at home. And so my call is to all of us at home. Kenya is standing in solidarity with us. There is a protest march that's going to the National Assembly. They're meeting at 10 a.m. I think many people know the details. If anybody is in Nairobi, please join the march to the National Assembly to hand over a petition. And then there's a march to Uganda High Commission. And I think the very last thing was people who were asking about the petition. What's the use of going to the Ugandan embassy or High Commission in Nairobi to deliver a petition? What are they going to do? Again, it's a symbol to show that we cannot reach State House. But the representation of Uganda's State House in Kenya is that High Commission. So do not despise the meaning and the power behind symbols. If you're in Nairobi, you're a Ugandan asylum seeker, a Ugandan refugee, a Ugandan urban refugee, a Ugandan expatriate, a Ugandan student in Nairobi tomorrow, and you're on this call, please join our Kenyan counterparts. But if you're not a Ugandan and you're in Kenya and you're available to participate in the streets, please join the march tomorrow, because again, our enemies see our numbers. They're scared by our numbers. One of the things I take away from Dr. Miguna Miguna's submission was an important point he said, and suddenly I had a flashlight bulb moment where he said that dictators desire to be loved. And it echoes what Mama Winnie Byanyima said. I think it was this week. She said, Museveni has been isolated. Any person of conscience, any person who seeks justice, any person who believes in democracy, equality, all those good values we stand for as human beings, any human being with a semblance of human dignity would isolate dictator Museveni. And so he is isolated, and he yearns for love. And I think one of the ways we can win is to show growing numbers of those who isolate the dictator and those who work with him. There are many of us who are not in bed with Museveni. We just don't want to be seen identifying as being antagonistic because there are repercussions in our everyday lives. But I think the call is for Ugandans at home, but Ugandans also who are in places where demonstrations are happening. Let's show them the numbers. Let's show them many numbers. Thank you very much, Juliana.
Yeah, thank you. You can always come back in. I just wanted to say that Dr. Miguna Miguna has been so gracious with his time, and his time, he has to run. So before he leaves us, I'd like to just give him an opportunity to give his closing remarks, and then we shall continue with the discussion for perhaps a little longer. Thank you so much, Stella. I couldn't agree more. Please go ahead, Dr.
Oh, thank you, Juliana, and I thank Stella for all the good sentiments. I thank everybody else. Stella, we've watched and we follow your struggles. I always follow everyone who is struggling around the world, not just in Uganda. I follow Nigerians, and recently we had a situation where Dele, a Nigerian advocate and writer, was also imprisoned and treated like a criminal when all he had done was write a book. So this struggle is a global struggle. I think I want to emphasize that. I also want to emphasize and disabuse this notion that things have always been good and glorious in Kenya, and that Kenya stands out as some kind of example, and that only Ruto recently has been copying tyrants. Not true, because yours truly was not just kidnapped in Kenya, detained illegally, but also removed from Kenya, his country of birth, to another country, and his passport taken. And also the second time, abducted and removed while unconscious after being sedated. So these barbarisms are not alien to Kenya. I want to emphasize that because I think it is wrong for us to gloss over atrocities happening in Kenya and in Uganda and all over the countries, in East Africa and around Africa. I also want us to have a historical context. Let us not forget the historical context. I want to say that it is also wrong to say Ugandans have not fought for their freedom. That's wrong. We should not gloss over struggles and sufferings that Ugandans have gone through. I was mainly taught by Ugandan exiles in Kenya in high school when I did my A-levels. All my teachers were Ugandans who had run away from the Idi Amin regime, and some of them had run away from the Obote regime. And I know a lot of Ugandans have run away from Museveni regime. And unlike Kenya, actually, Ugandans have had armed struggle. Museveni has mopped into this tyrant when there was a period when he actually went to the forest with Kizza Besigye and even Winnie, his wife. So Ugandans have done some things that Kenyans have not actually done. In Kenya, other than the Mau Mau experience, we've not actually had an armed struggle in Kenya. During the flag independence, after the British left, not left, but left in quotes, because Kenya is still very much. So I would want us to contextualize our struggle in a way that is conscious politically, so that when we eventually get rid of the tyrants that are brutalizing us, we don't do the same thing. We don't repeat the same mistake, as it were, because it would make no sense to get rid of Museveni and even get rid of Muhuzi, but get somebody like Mwenda or somebody else, even far worse than him, because our struggle was not ideologically based, was not based on any philosophical grounding. So I call upon all Kenyans who are listening and all Ugandans who will be in Kenya and around East Africa tomorrow to join the protests and raise your voice. I call upon everybody to retweet Stella's tweet listing all the political prisoners, and other people have actually tweeted also doing the same thing and mobilizing for positive action tomorrow and in the weeks to come, so that liberation, we can experience real, genuine liberation and freedom for our people. Viva, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Over to you, Juliana.
No, much. Please go ahead. Thank you so much, Doctor. Thank you so much for making it happen. I would like to bring in that. I mean, I've got nothing to add to that. I think the doctor has said what needs to be said, and I think for anybody listening, it's obvious that there's a lot to be done, but with solidarity and unity, it can be done. We're not very different from those people, from the Musevenis who took over power, or from previous leaders. We too can do this, and we should all sort of lend our brick to the foundation of the Uganda, the Kenya, the TZ, the Rwanda, the Burundi that we all want for our children. So I think I just want to say thank you so much, Dr. Miguna Miguna. Always welcome back. I would like to go to General Madways. Would you like, because they've been waiting for a while. General Madways, would you like to come in, please? Would you like to unmute? Go ahead. Hello, General Madways? Can you hear them? Madge, can you hear them?
No.
Oh,
no,
okay.
And while we are at it, can we please? I think we're gonna try to end at the top of the hour.
I was going to say.
And so let's retweet the space one last time, so that at least we don't have last minute requests for the mic. It's always very sad when people want to speak but they're not able to. And yes, don't forget to connect by following each other. Back to you, Juliana or Sam. Yeah.
Okay, General Madways, you seem to be, we can't hear you, or I don't know what's going on, but perhaps you can leave and come back. We'll give you the mic once you come in. Mugazi, would you like to come in, and then we can have Resurgence? I think Resurgence Network for Human Rights. Sorry?
Yeah, maybe before they come in, I will also be running away shortly. I'm also supposed to appear on another space discussing
okay. Sam, of course. Do you want to speak?
Well, mine
do you want to give your...
my remarks. First, of course, is to thank all the participants, because when we bring our minds together, that is the first step forward towards the concretization of our common action. I think that it is good that we are now seeing a movement towards, a united and coordinated effort in our neighboring country, Kenya, over issues that concern the unfortunate situation in Uganda. I still implore my fellow Ugandans that we must be seen to be taking the lead in matters that affect us. We are the primary, victims. And the Baganda have a saying that nanyinemufu yakwata waunya, that it's the owner of the dead that will touch the most smelly part of the body. So it is good, it's important that we have this, collective effort, but we must take the lead because our Kenyan friends, even if they were to come, we still have to show them around, and they wait for us to see what are we doing, so that we energize them, so that we give them the enthusiasm, to take that extra, to walk that extra mile. Thanks to everybody. Thanks to Dr. Stella Nyanzi. I've been following your efforts in this whole struggle that we've been putting up. Let me rush and also make a contribution to another front as we all, struggle for the same common objective. Have a good night and a good week ahead.
Thank you so much, Sam. We shall speak again, and everybody can join us next week on our spaces. But thank you so much. Have an excellent week and stay safe. Mungadi, would you like to come in?
Yes, Juliana, thank you so much for the opportunity. Well, angry citizen, I'm in the US. I'm in a state called Iowa, a state of about 3.1 million people, and maybe we're about 100 Black people. The pain of being told what you have just told us here is what I go through here daily. This is a white-dominated state, and it is a Trump state. And so when it came to knocking doors, they call it knocking doors or campaigns. I knocked doors for Trump. I knocked over 1,000 doors for him. And it was in an agreement that they give me a platform to tell them about Uganda. Angry citizen, me have been at this for 30 years plus. And even when you people had your fights, post-election violence in 2007, I was working with the US Embassy in Kampala, so I'm amongst the responders who responded to you people. We had about 10,000 of you in Tororo, and I was a service provider for them. We provided services for you. So it affects all of us at a certain point, because you might not see what we are doing, but like I've told you, I even followed you immediately. Follow me and you see what I'm doing. I am one person who goes to state capital and tell them I want to speak about my country. I want to know the reason. I want to know why I'm here. I even pick a tweet, just a tweet from an angry Ugandan, and I take it to the house and say, my house rep, this is a tweet from home. Look at it. And the other day he took a tweet and took it to Trump. And so we are doing everything as desperate people, and I'm speaking from the medical perspective, where you have 4 Ds of disease. You have a disease, you have a disability, you have destitution, and you have death. Some of us are at destitution, if it is in disease terms. And I want to assure you there's no doctor worth a doctor who will not do what Besigye did. Medicine is justice. Maybe you can only say the medics in Uganda didn't care so much about the people they treat. If you wake up to tweets of Muhoozi every day, I'm going to kill this person. The word killing is so shocking, it's so scaring. People live in fear, eat fear, and sleep in fear, and walk in fear. And you're like, where are the doctors? I was one person who was very, very excited when I saw our medics coming up, saying, walking to freedom. Medicine is justice. They are not only standing with Dr. Besigye. If Besigye is an example, our prisons are an epicenter. An epicenter is a place where disease comes from. They poison people. I worked with Uganda prisons, and I watched Museveni take over prisons with cadre medics. So it has been over time that he changed our country to what you see. He came when people were young. I was young. I was 20 when he came. I'm now 61. But he started indoctrinating, subversive teaching. Anyone after A6, you go to Chankwan's to be admitted in the university. So he created a cloud around him. And even when you're talking about the diaspora, each time his entourage comes here, when Museveni flies here, he comes and lives here about 200 Ugandans. That each time, everywhere you're walking, you walk in fear. There's a Museveni person here. And they are flowing into Kenya. You might think we are warning you out of fear because we want your help, but I think we are now ready to help ourselves because we have been abused enough all over the world.
Thank you. As you wind up, just so we can let other people speak before we finish, as you conclude.
Well, I'll just tell the angry citizen that we are fighting. We are not quiet. That's why he's with us on this wall. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mungadi. Just for the people who are going to follow after Mungadi, because we really must kind of close the space at the top of the hour. Can we restrict it to 2 to 3 minutes max? March, did you want to say something?
I just wanted to quickly respond to Mungadi. Yes, we should not fear, even in this space, in any time I'm spacing, the NSR, the NIS, that's the intelligence services of Kenya are listening in even now. So fear is something we cannot do with. So we cannot, don't be afraid of Museveni's spies. Excuse me. Those are your fellow citizens. And I know they're going to snitch on you, something like that, but do not be afraid of them. I just wanted to put that out there. Back to you, Juliana.
Thanks very much. Can I please have Resurgence, and then BDF, and then we'll have Patrick, Wounded, and MP, because he's spoken previously. Oh, Claudio is here as well. Okay, Resurgence, would you like to unmute and come in, please?
Thank you so much, Ian and others. My just point will be, I think accepting invasion on East Africa, as we see, by people who seek to also create further disasters besides the one that have been existing, it should be something that East Africans should not really accept before even the foreign powers intervenes. We all understand how foreign powers functions, and we should first handle this situation at our hand before we seek. And another point, I would say that as we call upon the international attention, we should make sure that we continue always tagging whoever is concerned, because the situation that is coming in East Africa is going to cause a big catastrophe that is going to take years to solve. As you can refer to what is happening in DRC and the brain behind it, as you can see, the son of Museveni and Museveni himself, and look at what is happening in Sudan. So this is a responsibility of every East African, not just Ugandans. And it's just what I really want to say, that whoever comes in here, make sure that you tag, make sure that you post, make sure that you talk and you write about these dictatorships that are likely to be taken down. It's not just only Museveni, but also Kagame and also others. So as really, it is a cause that we need to control before it gets out of hand. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being so brief. Can we have the next person, please? Was it BDF, I think?
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity. I've been listening, and it's very good to hear the people of East Africa coming together. I'm currently living in Cape Town, but I'm originally from Rwanda. I think what I can say is that politically we won't be able to do that much, to be honest. Let's be honest, and we mustn't fool ourselves, because these people we're talking about, they've got guns, they've got power, they can kill anyone. I think if we really want to do much politically, we can maybe look at Uganda and maybe Kenya and Tanzania. But for me, from Rwanda, I don't see anything changed from through politics, because we have got someone who runs alone. You can't run against him. So even that small votes that Kizza Besigye or Bobi Wine is getting, us no one can get it. So, but if you can, maybe you need to create a serious political party, and then you give it power. You try to put a lot of money in it. Maybe as we meet on space, we start maybe fundraising. We give enough money, and then we lobby like what other these people are lobbying politicians. Because what happens is that you need to recruit politicians so that you can get power. Otherwise, if we choose now to fight, yes, we can fight. I agree, we can fight, but you can't say that you are going to prevent fire with another fire. And when it comes to these two dictators that we have, Kagame and Museveni, they are not interested in killing. They can kill as much people as they want. So as someone from Rwanda who knows how dangerous is Kagame, and of course I know how Museveni is also, yes, we have to look for solutions, but when it comes to guns and fighting, let's maybe find another way, because these people that have got guns fear people who don't care to come in the house and kill women and kids for the sake of being in power, simply because somebody has said something that they don't want. Just that. And if we think of taking guns, and I'm not trying to be, maybe I'm not sounding to be like someone who got fear. It's not about that, but it's all about knowing what the war has done to us. Because when Kagame was coming, he was telling us that he's bringing up democracy, and same as Museveni. But when we joined them, when our fathers joined them, thinking that they are going to fight for democracy, we are crying for Kizza Besigye to be afraid today. He is the man who sacrificed himself so that we can have that democracy we're talking about. So I think maybe we can start, maybe learn from these other countries which got sorts of political tolerance, like in South Africa. When you look at it, their politics, yes, they've got problems, but when you look at their political atmosphere, they are a bit tolerant. So when maybe we can try and learn from them and see if we can apply it back home. Yeah, but thank you so much.
Thank you. I'll bring you in, Marge. But just to say, I mean, I hear where you're coming from, and obviously they've done a job on you, and I can understand maybe there's trauma behind what you're saying. But things are impossible until they're done. It takes one individual to change the entire course of history. So whilst I hear what you're saying, I'm very reticent, very careful and mindful not to kind of use that sort of narrative, because you don't know how brave the next person is. You don't know. People say a week is a very long time in politics, and anything can change. So whoever is in a position to do something, let them do what they have to do. But I wouldn't go ahead and start saying, that never say never. Right? Like I said, it's impossible until it's done. And you don't know. There's a lot of known unknowns, and you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So for me, I believe in the power of the people, and the power of the people to bring about the change. So the idea that we must form political parties, East Africa does not have a shortage of political parties and political organizations. So that's not what's lacking. Right. So forming yet another entity, a political body, I don't know whether it would be the vehicle to bring about or to topple Museveni or any of the other regional dictatorships. So for me, it's like I do have my belief in the people of this region to make a difference and to make the changes that are necessary to ensure that we see an end to the barbarity of people like Museveni and his son Mohozi. Marge, would you like to come in, please, before I bring up?
Yes, I just wanted to share with BDF that I think he saw the pictures and the videos of the protests in June 2024. You saw there's a video still in circulation. I might need to share it. The police were shooting at the citizens who were actually falling down and standing up again to continue. There were those who were at the front, they were being shot down, and they kept going and they kept going and kept going. So it's not like they don't love their lives. But before they went there, we had spaces, and we had many spaces, and there were many citizens, young people who were telling me, Marge, we're not afraid of dying, because we are anyway, under the situation that we are living, we're actually the living dead. So and such a tyrant, you cannot really babysit them, to say. But I just want to say that when an oppressor oppresses people for such a long time, it reaches a time where it actually explodes. And the same revolution, I'll use the word allegedly here, the president had left the State House. The president had left wherever he was. He was already fleeing. Now, as you see, as things turned out, and so we're talking about an example that happened last year, where Kenyans, Gen Zs, took the mandate from Ruto. And now, the only person who gave him a lifeline is Raila Odinga. So do not discourage people. There are many things that people can do, but I'm just saying that we cannot just say, let's negotiate. And if you look at South Africa in itself as a context, you cannot compare it to other countries just like that. Just wanted to put that out there. Yeah. Back to you, Juliana.
Thanks, Marge. Okay, BDF, you literally have 1 minute to respond to that, so we really must close soon. So you've got a minute to respond, and then we'll bring in Resurgence. Resurgence, have you spoken? And then, Patrick. Go ahead, BDF.
Okay, thank you so much. Yes, I understand. I'm not talking about the Kenyans, because I was talking about these two dictators who are problems, and that's why I was referring to get to power through political ways. And I said in Uganda it is possible, because with Bobby Wine, the caliber that Bobby Wine has, people, if they can support him in big number, he's gonna get power. It's possible to get power without no one getting killed. Yes, you can suffer that arrest and all that, but it's possible. But in Rwanda, it is not possible. That's all I was trying to say. But in Kenya, it's another case, because I cannot. Kenya, it's on another level. You can't compare Kenya and Rwanda when it comes to democracy or anything you want to say. But I was just trying to say, in case, because we the people of East Africa, and we're the people who are big problem in East Africa. So in my perspective as a Munyarwanda, it is not possible. But if it comes from Kenya, then to Uganda, of course it's gonna be possible by us, because it's a matter of closing borders and then we force him to resign. It's possible. But for us to tell us that we are going to protest in Kigali, that will never happen. Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. I hear you. I hear where you're coming from. Can we please have Patrick, and then we'll have Claudio and Dr. Kimani in that order? Kindly be brief. Thank you. Patrick, okay, Patrick, can you mute and come in, please?
Good evening, good morning, whenever you're watching or listening to this conversation. I just thought to join this space because in one or the other, it that indirectly touches on us as a Kenyan. And I want to submit, having also served in the military, that is both in Kenya and the US. I want to say that it is a very big embarrassment, because what I would call is that the military, which in highest level would call it special forces or special operations, I don't think it is in good conduct. That's what I would say, that we should not brand military or people in the military as bad people. But I would call this, having served in the military, that most people who have not highly been trained, they drive in fear. And when they drive in fear, they use the military to inflict pain or fear to others. And I want to say that Uganda is an example of a global nepotism. That's what I would say. Because I actually don't know how many countries that we have a president and whereby the son is also, a top brass in the military of a country. I also want to believe that as East Africa and African, we don't want to be, we need to be proactive to deter war or to deter commotions and demonstrations within our countries. And this has to come from us as East Africa and African protecting these things from the word go. What I want to mean is that I was also participating in a Gen Z's demonstration in Kenya. and I'm among the young leaders who want to become the 6th president of this country, of Kenya. And also Uganda being a neighboring country, I want to submit to the group that it is also a major concern to me as a young leader and a person want to see that we don't have nepotism, we don't have corruption, we don't have, rule of the law being violated. Besigye was abducted, or Dr. Besigye, Colonel Dr. Besigye was abducted in the soil of Kenya, which I highly condemned in my tweet. And I want to say that instead of our East African and African countries trying to deter conflict within our countries, what they are doing is to propagate war. And this is what I would say, that the dictators and people who are in leadership who are dictators are colluding to make sure that we actually have maybe international law being violated. And I want to say that we have principles of international humanitarian law, and whereby I also tend to believe we should even have East Africa or African humanitarian law, whereby we, the African countries or countries, we can gang up together to take even a leadership that we feel and think is inflicting, or violating the rule of the law or the human rights within our jurisdiction as countries. The international
as you wind up, so we can allow other people to come in.
All right. I want just to highlight a few things that happen in regard to, you cannot attack a non-combatant person just anyhow, or otherwise we cannot. If we have to attack them, we have to attack them in legal means. And again, as leaders and young people and young leaders in the globally, we should treat persons in your power in a very humanitarian way. And these are provisions that are provided by international humanitarian law. So what I want to submit to the people of Uganda and Kenyan people, that we have to collaborate to make sure that people and leaders that are after dictating or after violating the humanitarian right, we need to make sure that we collaborate and be able to support each other. That is my submission. I want to appreciate the host. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Marsha, did you have your hand up?
Yes, I just wanted to clarify that for the next speakers, it's 3 minutes each. So after 2 minutes, I'll be raising my hand. So look at my profile. When I raise my hand, you know that you have 1 minute left. Back to you, Juliana.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you. Okay. Can we have Claudio? You've got your hand up. Then we'll have we'll have Dr. Kima, Omare, and then Machiavelli. Okay, I think it's a Kenyan way of spelling Machiavelli. Please go ahead, Claudio. If you can be brief, and please watch for Marge's hand.
Claudio, can you hear me?
Claudio, can you speak? Okay, he's gone off. We can't speak. Dr. Kima, would you like to come in? Would you like to unmute and come in, please?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, perfectly well. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much, and I'm happy to be here. Much thank you. I'm delighted, especially because of the Pan-Africanism that I see rising, and especially from nations that you wouldn't imagine. And this is being informed by the fact that, pain of Uganda is pain of Kenya, it's pain of Lesotho, it's pain of every state in Africa or nation. And it's quite unfortunate now when you talk about the cries of Uganda, because they have known one rule, very brutal, since over 40 years now. And we are seeing similar things coming in different countries, say in Kenya, Rwanda, and other places. And one wonders, why should we encourage these things to continue happening? And I go back and I see the writings of Dr. Mwalimu Julius Nyerere, who was talking about how heads of state, and especially in Africa, hide each other. They want to be therefore they are crooks, and they would want to sanctify and make sure that nobody in their own portfolios is brought down. And that's why we, the citizens, continue to suffer in silence. However, the generation today or the times of today are quite different because 20 years or even let's say 10 years ago, such kind of a thing could not have happened. The world has become a small village as we thought it would, and we are able to see and call things out as we should, educating each other. And I want to call each and every one of us to continue doing the same to the, to the innermost places that you could go. Let people know that the times of being told what and how you need to do things is over. Because the person telling you how and how you need to conduct yourselves, they're not doing it themselves. They're just there to make sure that they oppress you and make sure that you do not even see light of day tomorrow. They steal your future today. So there would be no need of even being there tomorrow. I look at the pains that Dr. Kisa Besigye is going through, and I'm like, why is it that he has to go through that? For what? Why? He could have just, collected his own family and everything and decided to go somewhere and enjoy his life. But he don't do that. He knows that irrespective of whatever may have happened before him, his ancestors, the colonization and everything that happened before that, he still has a responsibility to protect his people, to protect his country, to remain sovereign as a Uganda. But now comes people who are just democratic. They just have insatiable stomachs. They will never want to see anybody else eating other than themselves, and wants to bring countries down to the ground. It is not going to happen in this new era of globalization, whereby, and in globalization, what I'm talking about the connection and the connectivity of people through social media and other platforms. We are going to watch, we are going to call it out, and we have no responsibility to give up. That's the thing that we cannot use the hope as a strategy that things will improve. No, that has not happened. We use the same hope, and we were told tomorrow belongs to the young people. Young people are becoming old and not doing anything important. Therefore, my fellow Africans, friends and enemies, as may have been said, because those who are coming and spying on us, it is me today, it will be you tomorrow, irrespective. And by the end of the day, we are going to be in a better place with our Pan-Africanism and Pan-Africanist mentality. Thank you so much, Juliana, and everybody else who's spoken before me. Thank you.
Thanks, Kimani. I gave you some more minutes because I was really just distracted with the news. The German chancellor that watched when Kenyans were being slaughtered and we were tagging him, but it was more important for him because he didn't say anything because Germany was signing a labor migration agreement that was more important to Germany because they wanted people coming here to work in their system, has just lost the elections. That's a one-term chancellor. And we are hoping that Ruto is also going to be a one-term president. Yeah, so there you go. Back to you, Julia. That's what was delaying me.
Thank you. Well, congratulations on that one. We always like to see tyrants out or people who are insensitive and don't care. There's an aspect that perhaps we will continue this conversation and we'll talk about later, and that is the complicity of the West and Western powers in the suffering of Africans and how they're setting up their puppets in East Africa. So you've got Museveni, you've got Ruto, you've got Kagame, and they're causing mayhem in the region. And you only need to see how M23 was not arrested and bundled off to the DRC when they were regrouping in Kenya or in Uganda, and to see the kind of mayhem they're causing the ordinary Congolese in the eastern part of the region. And I also think that this thing which they persist on saying that I actually am of the belief that the colonial boundaries mean that people of the same ethnic groups find themselves in different countries within our region. But I also think that that is being used by the dictatorships in place within our Great Lakes region to continue or to kind of be the administrators of Western powers, Germany, the UK, USA, France, in order to plunder the resources of the Eastern DRC and very much the region, not just the DRC, but our region. So hearing that somebody who stood by whilst Kenyans were being slaughtered has lost the election, well, good riddance to bad rubbish. That's all I have to say. To that, Machiavelli, and then Patrick, and then we'll call it a day. Machiavelli, would you like to unmute and come in, please?
Okay, thank you. I think we are really having a very nice conversation as Africans. I think we have very few tyrants remaining in Africa, and these tyrants were imposed on us by the West. And you have to believe when I say that the white man has never loved an African man, regardless. So it started with the scramble and partition of Africa in 1884. These borders which were drawn, they were not drawn and set up by an African man. This was a project done by white men in 1884 in Germany. And up to now, it's still a problem. Even the war in DRC still, is still because of the borders, which were not African made. So the problem we are really having I just want to go faster is because I do have limited time. The problem we do have in Uganda, I think, is a very sad state of affairs. We really have a tyrant who has been in power for more than for now, I think 38 years. He's now heading to 40 years. And his son is the head of the military. The daughter is the head of the finance, I think. The wife is the minister of education. So nepotism is just clear and spelled out so clear in the government, and the country has never moved forward ever since Museveni took power. And it has always been about intimidation, oppression, especially of the opposition. Anything that seems to threaten even his sleep, he'll have to deal with it mercilessly and ruthlessly. So I think it's up to Africans to stand with Uganda. I think we have very few tyrants, apart from Teodoro Obiang of Equatorial Guinea, who is now almost 40 years, and the Cameroon also. We now have Museveni. So I think Africans, we should stand with our fellow African brothers and tell them that it's time to break free from the shackles of tyrants and these people who are really oppressing our fellow Black brothers and sisters. So I think is a really good conversation. I was just listening. I joined in too late, but as Kenyans, I think we really spoke out and say that this was not right. It was not right for the government to agree and to have this sort of arrangement with Uganda, so that Kizza Besigye can be deported back to. Was not deported, was abducted from Nairobi. So I think it's something that even internationally, with the laws, with everything, it does not sit right. And it really puts Kenya in a very awkward situation. And right now, we also have the RSF issue with Sudan. We still, as a country, Kenya, we still have issue with the DRC. So we are really meddling into other people's political issues and problems, and it's not sitting right with the countrymen also. So I think, thank you. I'll not speak much. If I take time to speak, I think I take time. So I really appreciate for the little time I've been accorded. Thank you
so much, Machiavelli. Have an excellent week. Patrick, would you like to come in? You'll probably be our last speaker, and then we'll have closing remarks. Patrick, would you like to come in, please?
Well, I think Patrick spoke already, Juliana.
Oh yeah, he's okay. I'm with you. Right. Well, that's it. All that is left for me to say is thank you so much for showing solidarity with us, our Kenyan brothers and sisters. Like everybody has said, we are literally only separated by outsiders. But really, if you look at our maps, we're all brothers and sisters. I think my clan is supposed to have, the Mamba clan is supposed to have been, have originated from Kenya. So we're more related, we're more alike than we realize. I would like to say thank you much for making this happen. Thank you so much to Dr. Miguna Miguna. I think his submissions were invaluable. I really do believe that I am my brother's keeper, and when the time comes, God forbid, we too shall stand with Kenya. We would like to thank you for standing with us. Please do not be fooled by the things that you see on social media, especially on pages or timelines like those of Muhoozi. He is surrounded by sycophants and yes men and brown nosers, and they tend to give the impression to the rest of the world that really absolutely everything's fine in Uganda and he's very well supported. Well, if you block everybody who disagrees with you and only keep the yes men around you, then of course it's going to appear that he has immense support. But you have to understand a very small fraction of Ugandans are actually able to get onto social media because of the poverty, because of the very, very real life situations in Uganda that mean that an individual will have to choose between buying data, feeding their children, or sending their children, buying an aspirin for their sick child. So there are millions of voiceless Ugandans who never get the chance to come out here and speak. But please do not go away with the impression that everything is fine in Uganda. Everything is not fine in Uganda. Things are very, very bad. Opposition offices have been broken into just this weekend. Things, the supporters have been abducted to unknown places. We don't know where they are. Muhoozi is all over. Muhoozi is Museveni's son, who's all over social media, like Sam was saying, threatening to kill anybody who disagrees with him or doesn't see any things his way. He's threatened to kill the wife of Kizza Besigye. He's threatened to kill lawyers or managing directors of media houses who don't agree with him. He said anybody that is dressed in NUP colors, which are red, with a beret, they will be arrested and killed. And when he says these things, he's being very serious because it's been happening. I've held spaces with families of the abducted. They don't know where their people are. Ugandans are being disappeared. We're literally back, if not worse, to days of Idi Amin, when our parents and grandparents told us they escaped from Uganda through Kenya or to Kenya for safety. So when you have a situation that you've got now where Ugandans are not safe in Kenya because of the complicity of President Ruto and the fact that he's become Museveni's errand boy, it makes it very, very difficult for many Ugandans who make it to Kenya. However, I do believe in the humanity, or what we call Ubuntu. I have many Kenyan friends, and I know that the ordinary Kenyan, the people of Kenya, do protect Ugandans, do hide them, do give them safe passage. I am a true believer in the humanity and being my brother's keeper, the humanity of our people. I do not believe that every kind of, all Kenyans believe or think in any way like Ruto that Ugandans should be abducted in Kenya and kidnapped and returned to Uganda. I know that they can be protected. So if you get the chance, if you're a member of the armed forces or civil society or just an ordinary Ugandan, if you are asked to take part in anything that means that Ugandans have to be repatriated back to Uganda, please say no. Walk away. I don't know, as long as it doesn't put you endanger yourself. Don't participate and do not be complicit in the misery, the murder, or the imprisonment of Ugandans who are desperate to seek safety and safe passage through Kenya. And I think, years from now, if we do this, we'll set a precedent for our children and grandchildren that we continue what our forefathers did, which is we hold hands in what we call Ubuntu, or our common humanity. So again, I think that's all I wanted to say. Thank you so much. Free Kizza Besigye and the thousands and thousands of Ugandans who are currently in dungeons and incarcerated and have no hope in hell unless the system changes. So thank you so much for standing with us. Thank you for joining our space. Marge, I love you, but you already know that. Thank you so much, and have an excellent week. Stay safe, and I think I'll let Marge close the space. Thank you.
Thank you so much to everyone who really stayed on board with us for the contribution and listening. And also, Juliana, thanks for co-hosting. I have just 2 brief points that I want to put across. I want to really just underline that it's a wrong perception to think that you can only get shot when you're on the streets, when you go to demonstrate. Like I said, the first bullet shots that I heard, or as a child, I was in school. I was not demonstrating. And the primary teacher, who was not trained to really evacuate children, had to evacuate us into safety. And that was our brutal regime actually shooting at people. So that I wanted to put out there. And if people do not fight back, those bullets are going to catch you anywhere. They're even stray bullets. You'll be watching your TV in your sitting room and the bullet is going to catch you and nothing is going to happen. So, and this is why I'm so allergic to dictators all over the world, because whereas people say, well, Kenya is very advanced, but how did I really just get to hear gunshots or see those things when I was a child? That was also in Kenya. Now, that having been said, I would like to really bring out a call to the Ugandan diaspora. Come out. Your country needs you. Go to the embassies, demonstrate, look for permission to demonstrate. If you do that, the police is not going to disclose your identity. You can still, when you have that permit, you can, redact your name, so it's still safe. You can even go to register it yourself, but then come back and say somebody else did it and just spread it. It's legal at that point. But when you are demonstrating out there, what you need to avoid at this point is having symbols of a political party on anything you're demonstrating with. Why? It's a national issue. When you carry this Ugandan flag, other Ugandans are saying, well, that's a fellow Ugandan. But when you have a political symbol, and I know these political parties are helping, but this is something that's actually potentially dividing, because the people who do not support this political party are just going to look at it and say, no, that's these parties' affairs. So do come out. It really supports. I was able to support from here. I was able to support many people. There were people who were even texting me and inboxing me and saying, well, what do we do? I was not on the ground, but people are texting me and saying, Madge, we went to the street. The police really scattered us. What is happening out there? Where should we go? So really, diaspora, your country needs you. Step up, keep helping them. Lastly, you saw that Stella shared about a demonstration that's happening tomorrow. Do keep sharing that. If you're in Nairobi and you're able to attend, do attend. Let's really help where we can. Continue helping, and hopefully the next demonstration is going to be at the border, because you have to really hit where it hurts most. When they block the Kenyan Ugandan border, then the president becomes not very comfortable, because it's a route for many countries. So I hope the next protest is gonna go probably that way. That having been said, I wish you a good night and good morning wherever you are, and God bless you.